Okay, so one of the fun things, the cool things about being a scientist is you can talk about incest and bestiality and not get fired or arrested. So, yeah, I'm really talking about these things today, but perhaps not in the way you're expecting. So for a geneticist, incest and inbreeding are the same thing, and royal families are particularly noted for their penchant for inbreeding. And what you see when you look at their family tree is you see a particular individual is occupying more than one place in the tree. So Charles II of Spain's mother was also his cousin, and he was famously mentally and physically frail. So normally I'm spending my time looking at a computer, looking at DNA sequences like this and trying to make sense of them. But it's actually really useful for me to take a step back from this and think about DNA in a broader sense. And so I think most of you here probably can recognize the structure of DNA. This double helix is almost an icon of modern times. And this is not completely undeserved. It's a very important molecule. It really makes us what we are. We're human because we've got human DNA and not chimp DNA. And when Watson and Crick discovered the structure of DNA, they famously declared that they had found the secret of life. And we can forgive them this moment of euphoria because DNA is really important, and in the simplest sense of being alive is the ability to self-replicate, which DNA does. And it does it by, if you imagine these two strands of DNA, they kind of unzip, they pull apart, and a new strand forms along one of the old halves. And so the interesting thing here is that you have a physical touching between the old and the new DNA. So not some conceptual or metaphorical thing, but physical touching between the new DNA and the old DNA. And the only way you get DNA is from existing DNA. So if you think about any cell in your body, a skin cell, a blood cell, heart or liver cell, the DNA in that cell came from DNA in a previous cell. So it was copied from a previous cell. And start anywhere in your body, pick a place, and go back, keep tracing back, tracing back, tracing back, and you eventually end up at the fertilized egg from which you grew. And the DNA in that fertilized egg was directly touching your mum's and your dad's DNA. And so then the DNA in every cell of your mum's and dad's body was directly touching DNA in a previous cell and a previous cell, right back again to the DNA in your grandparents' DNA. And that can go back to your great-grandparents and your great-great-grandparents. So there's a physical chain of contact, a physical chain, not a metaphorical chain, from DNA in any cell in your body right back to any of your ancestors, right back in time. So you can really see this like a chain, and I really conceptualize it like a handshake. You've got this physical connection. And if you think about how many ancestors you have when you go back through the generations, you can calculate this very easily. So if you go back 10 generations to the time of Marie Antoinette, you've got over 1,000 ancestors. Back to the time of Leonardo, you've got over 1 million ancestors that you're directly descended from, no matter who you are. And back to the time of the Black Death, there's over 1 billion ancestors for anybody in this room. You've got 1 billion ancestors in the time of the Black Death. Unfortunately, 1 billion is larger than the population of the Earth at the time of the Black Death. So how can we possibly have this? Well, remember your royal family tree? Some people are the same person. So we're all inbred. And if you think about it, we're like one big royal family. No matter who you are, you've got relatives you've got ancestors who were relatives with each other. And so this is true no matter who you are, but it's also true if you go back further and further in time for all humans, go back further, it's true for all animals. Your DNA has touched DNA, that's touched DNA, that's touched DNA, that's touched his ancestors' DNA. And it's not only true for animals, but also for plants. So the grass out there, we have common ancestry with that grass. And we can see this in the genes because if you look at the DNA, there are some genes that are virtually unchanged between us and grass. Honestly, if you think about your sandwich that you're eating, it's part human. Sorry, vegetarians. And so there are genes in bread that are human genes, essentially, because they're identical. And so if you think about this, this is really valuable because it means from a biological point of view, we can apply knowledge across all of biology. If I do an experiment in grass, I can actually learn something about human because the genes are the same. And so in this sense, this is a really powerful concept, but we're also all kind of Frankensteins, right? So any of us is part animal or part wheat, and the wheat is part human, and the fish are part chimpanzee. And so this relationship through all of life means we're all a big mixture of everything, and no matter who you are, your mum and dad are related, and your boyfriend is part goat. Sorry.